Feisty, fearless, and fair. She's an Emmy-winning journalist from the White House to war zones, telling all sides of the story. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
Lovely Rita.
Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, Iran attempts a surprise attack on U.S. forces in the Mideast, coming a day after there were ceasefire talks, apparently, and that they were making progress, according to reports. So the IRGC launching multiple ballistic missiles from Iran in an attempt to be a surprise attack on U.S. forces in Jordan and elsewhere. Those missiles were intercepted, but it sure shows that things are indeed a mess in the Middle East. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222, and you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Also in the last few hours, Jay Clayton has been confirmed. 51-47 was the vote in the Senate as the new director of national intelligence. Jay is a great guy. He replaces Tulsi Gabbard. Jay Clayton, also a former U.S. attorney from New York, and that is great news. And also, in the last few hours, the Senate did sort of a test vote on a new package, including, by the way, with Zelensky present at the time. And the new vote was for Russian and Iranian sanctions bill, named after the late Lindsey Graham, who, of course, there was a huge memorial service honoring the great Senator Lindsey Graham today. And Zelensky was there, and Prime Minister Netanyahu, also the president of Finland, was there. President Trump also giving a very powerful eulogy. And, well, maybe say goodbye to New York, because Zorhan Mamdani is destroying New York, it seems like, every which way but loose. We know, of course, about these government-run grocery stores that he's building. We also know that he sent out all these letters and essentially doxed everybody who has a second home in New York, saying, here's who they are, here's their addresses. Apparently, a lot of people also got letters. We're going to get into that in a few moments, too. I mean, that's harassment. I would call that a lawyer's paradise, because now suddenly all these people are being followed and information coming out about them. They're asking them to, in letters, send their social security number and a whole bunch. You can expect some massive, I think like class action lawsuits are coming. And a little bit earlier today, we talked with Professor Alan Dershowitz, the great constitutional scholar, about this. And I will definitely ask him his thoughts, because it is clear that a lot of this stuff is really crossing the line. It's harassment, it's doxing, and it's a whole bunch more. And now Zorhan Mamdani to add everything else, fuel to the flames. Well, get this. Now he is talking about reparations and saying that New York is definitely responsible and definitely needs to pay some dues. Yes, you heard it. Reparations. Listen to the latest. He did an interview with, it's like a podcast, I should say. It's called The Root. And here is Socialist Mayor Zorhan Mamdani trying to further destroy New York.
If a commission studying reparations in this city recommended cash reparations for people impacted in New York City, would you support that recommendation?
First, I want to say that I stand by what I submitted.
Yes.
It's the truth.
Yes.
It's not a personal assessment. And we often think about slavery and the complicity in slavery as being exclusively to certain geographic areas of the country.
Right.
Here in New York City, we were very complicit. And so I look forward to whatever those findings are. I can't give you an answer in advance of them, okay, but I can tell you that this is critically important, because this is also what it looks like to acknowledge what history truly was.
So he's saying New York is complicit, and I guess New York has to pay its dues to the piper. Reparations, that's just what they need right now. And crime-ridden, now double taxation, government-run grocery stores. Also, remember, abolish ICE, downgrade the police. Is there anything else that he could suggest to destroy New York further? I'm sure he'll come up with it. Well, here is actor James Woods, the great actor, and he said Mandani is probably one of the worst events in modern times in America. He's not holding back. Take a listen to what he said.
I think the election of Mandani, and I think in the dark of night packing of Minnesota as a Muslim enclave will be seen in the future historically as the turning point when America was gone forever. I think the election of Mandani was the most dangerous event to happen in this country since, obviously the Civil War and slavery, horrible beyond imagination. But, in modern times, the election of Mandani, I think America is the greatest human endeavor in the history of humankind. Redundant there. I think it's in terrible trouble. I mean, the city where the World Trade Center was, and the people in it were slaughtered, destroyed and slaughtered. How you could ever allow this Muslim invasion and cancer. And you say, well, what are you? Are you prejudiced? Well, yes. I'm sorry to say it. And don't keep it, if you quote it, just that. I'm prejudiced against a religion that's really a religion, that's really a political jihad that actually has in its revered text that you will kill every non-believer. I'm a Catholic. I believe certain things. I don't think certain other religions share my view, but they have a right to do it. This is America, and I'd say you have a right to do it anyway.
Pretty incredible stuff. Saying that he believes this is the most dangerous event happening in this country in modern times. Do you guys agree with him? He's talking about the election of Zorhan Mamdani. And again, a lot of people are saying, thank goodness he can't run for president. But it's pretty frightening. Abdul El Sayed in Michigan. Next week is the Michigan primary, the Democratic primary. Mike Rogers running unopposed on the GOP side. And some interesting new polls, by the way, in that particular race. By the way, this poll is good news. If it's a matchup with Mike Rogers and Abdul El Sayed, who right now is leading on the Democratic side, we'll find out tomorrow night, next week rather, together during the primaries. But he's running against Haley Stevens. Abdul El Sayed, who certainly embraced a lot of very questionable extremists, Islamists. Well, now, in this new poll, Mike Rogers, the former congressman, former FBI, former U.S. military, great guy, is leading the Socialist El Sayed by 10 percentage points. And if the GOP flips Michigan, because it's in Gary Peters' hands right now, a Democrat, there is no chance that Democrats will be able to get the Senate. Of course, the Senate is now in GOP hands, also is the House, but there would be no way for them to flip it if indeed Mike Rogers wins this seat from a Democrat. That would be an enormous deal. Of course, it's a long way till now in an election day, but we'll see where that goes. Also, by the way, speaking of polls in the New York GOP gubernatorial race, another poll, this is by a super PAC, tied with Blakeman, but it's interesting, the results, shows that he is just trailing Hochul by 4 points. That's nothing. That's clearly in the margin of error. Obviously, again, it's too early to tell, but Hochul has been attached at the hip with Zorhan Mamdani. So maybe some of this craziness from Mandani is also reflecting on Kathy Hochul. And speaking of craziness from Mandani, listen to earlier on Katz and Cosby, we had Michael Cohen, of course, who was the former president's private attorney and consigliere and confidant. They've since somewhat reconciled, it seems. And Michael was with us on Katz and Cosby, and he talked about a letter that he got because they are saying that he has a second home, that he is a second homeowner in New York, that he should be getting taxed. He says, no, I've always lived in New York. This is a mistake. And wait till you hear what the letter from the Democratic Socialists of America / Mayor Mandani, New York City, the information they're asking for. Is there anybody who'd want to hand over this information to Mayor Mandani's administration? Can you imagine what they might end up doing with it? Take a listen.
So
Cohen?
I came home from work yesterday only to be handed from, the folks that work, at the building, my mail. And I see something coming from the city of New York. It says urgent on it. Well, I open it up and I take a look at it. And it's telling me that I now have to provide proof that I am a resident of my own home. I have to provide them documentation. Otherwise, I am subject to this pied-à-terre tax.
John, isn't that, wait a minute, before I get further, the fact that you have to show you're a resident.
I didn't get the mail yet in my apartment.
I know, by the way, I was wondering, John, too.
And what I found most interesting was the timing of it, as if they didn't realize that people who are living in higher-end apartments may not be in New York at this present time. They may be in Europe enjoying the month.
Right, it's August. It's heading into August.
Right,
July, August, big vacation time, right?
Not splitting their time.
Yep.
Not applicable to the tax.
And so all of a sudden, now you're going to come back. It's going to be too late. And by the way, it's not an easy thing to fill out. People think that, you just turn around and say, no, this is my primary residence. Let me show you how you would know. First of all,
tell us what they were asking for, because this is the big jaw dropper.
So I go ahead, I go onto the website. It gives you a very special ID code for yourself. It gives you then the prompts. You need to put in your name, your address, your date of birth, your social security number. I'm like, it's a lot of information to be asking. No problem. Then they ask you for a copy of your ID. They ask you as well for a secondary proof. Then they want your tax return. And on top of all of that, they want your phone number. They want everything. And because many people have, like I do, I own my apartment in a Cupid trust for my children. Well, they now want a copy of the trust.
They now want a copy of the trust. And Michael's like, I'm not handing that over. No way, no how. Well, here's Professor Alan Dershowitz, who also joined us. And he said, there is no doubt there will be lots of lawsuits. He calls it a lawyer's paradise, courtesy of Zorhan Mamdani. And first, let's go after that second home tax, because Michael Cohen and others are saying, why do I have to suddenly hand over all this information? He doesn't trust it in the administration of a Democratic Socialist administration in New York. Imagine if El Sayed said, hey, can you hand over all that information? Or Hamaway in New Jersey said, hey, can you hand over that information? Trust us. Yeah, just give us your social security number and all your private information, your financials, your tax returns. Trust us. Well, here is Professor Alan Dershowitz saying there will be lawsuits. And this is cut number 50.
Well, of course there is. You can do a class action, and there will be a class action. I assure you there'll be creative lawyers who will come up with a way of challenging some of these extreme measures, particularly the penalty phases and the inability to challenge them in a careful and coherent way. So, yeah, undoubtedly there'll be challenges. And the question is whether the challenges will go into state court, which they probably have to go into first, and then perhaps into federal court. But there will be challenges. And or will the state courts be up to standing up to Mamdani? Look, the ultimate the ultimate goal, we're not going to get rid of Mamdani now for a while. The goal is to get elected a governor who will take on Mamdani. And, of course, the governor has the ultimate authority even to remove him. And so it's so important that the right person be elected governor, and the current governor is not the right person.
Yeah, the current governor is coddling Mandani.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, it looks like the Democratic Socialists, maybe the king of it all, Mandani, will be a lawyer's paradise. That's what Professor Dershowitz was telling us a little bit ago. 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to the Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Alice in Ohio on line 4. Go ahead, Alice.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. Catherine Cosby was on fire this afternoon.
Yeah, we were,
remember,
by the way, weren't we? It was like wham, 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 wham. It was, we were also fired up because it's crazy, Alice. It is nuts.
Yes, it is unbelievable. Since, I live outside of Cincinnati, about a year ago, we have there's a mini-me mayor of Cincinnati, similar to your mayor, unfortunately. You remember a year ago, the beatdown of the young white couple?
Yes,
who were
yes.
attacked by a group of young black adults, probably 4 or 6 males, 1 female.
Yep.
Okay, so they were able to gather them all together, and then they were all charged. And when it came out, the male was kicked in the head about 25 times, and someone said he was kicked around. His head was kicked around like it was a soccer ball. Okay. So then,
Alice, you got to get to the point. Go ahead. I'm sorry, but you got to get to the point.
City Council was upset because all of the defendants were black, and they made the victim, because he was white, he was not only a victim, they made him a defendant.
Wow. So is this what you believe is further in store in other locations, right, is what you're saying? It's these soft on crime, woke policies, right?
You're not alone.
Oh, Alice, I guess misery loves company, even though I'm sorry to say that. Thank you, Alice.
Rita Cosby is on.
And this Back the Blue segment coming from New London, Connecticut, where 2 unconscious adults were pulled from river water by the police. The police department responded to a call at 1:43 in the morning that 2 people were drowning near a pier. The officers immediately responded. Once they got on scene, they located that 2 people were indeed in the water. The officers found an adult male and an adult female in the river and rushed in to pull them out of the water. Neither was conscious or alert at the time that they were removed from the water. Both of the people were immediately transported to the hospital for emergency treatment. They remain hospitalized and under medical care, but lucky to be alive, thanks to our men and women in blue. And let's go to your calls, guys. It's 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And you are listening to The Rita Cosby Show. Let's go to Robert in Philly. Line 1. Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Rita. As always, it's great to talk to you.
You too, my friend. By the way, in Philly, you've got a DSA guy too, Robert.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've had them here a long time. They've just been keeping a low profile until now. But I have something I wanted to really talk to you about. But first, I almost drove off the road. So Mamdani is going to ask Americans to prove every which way that they live where they live. But we can't ask the same thing from illegal immigrants, right? Got it. All bass backwards, I'm telling you.
It is. By the way, that is a very good point. it is a complete invasion of privacy, and it also opens the door to doxing. And in the case, I was playing the Michael Cohen clip because I thought it was really interesting. In his case, he doesn't have a second home, his primary home, but now he's being forced to prove that this is his home. So he's like, I don't want to hand in my Social Security number. I don't want to hand in my information to the Mandani administration. Would you, especially if you're a known person?
Absolutely not. But I was calling because there's two main reasons why Islam is not going to work in America. Has nothing to do with hate or prejudice, Rita. The first one is the Quranic concept of taqiyya. That's Taqqiya. People, please look it up.
By the way, before you go to the second, let's talk about taqiyya, because it essentially means, I guess they can lie, right?
Well, what it means is any crime that you cannot do to another person only applies to Muslims. You can do those things like murder, rape, lie, steal, if it's a non-Muslim, if it furthers the will of Allah. And we all know how ambiguous guys can be when it comes to power like that. The second reason is religious pluralism. Every other religion in the world, from Buddhism to Christianity to Judaism to Taoism to Hinduism, have signed on to the concept of religious plurality, which is basically peaceful coexistence within a country. The only religion that has never signed on to that is Islam. Now, I have hope that the Sunni religion may be coming around to that way of thinking, but the Shia never will. But until those two things change, they're not going to work in America. It's just impossible. And we're not going to make them better with our culture. And as just an example of that, if you put on a glove and stick it in mud, the glove will get muddy, but the mud will not get glovey. Do you know what I mean, Rita?
Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great one. I love that. And you know what? The inflexibility is a very, very powerful message that you're talking about, because when you sit there and you hear the my way or the highway attitude and expecting everybody to comply, and hello, you're in our country, that's a problem, Robert.
Well, yeah. Well, I personally know Muslim immigrants, legal as far as I know, who are wonderful people. Okay, it's the Islamists, and the Islamists are the ones that are ruining Europe, and they're the ones that want to ruin America. They're not looking for a better life. They're looking for domination. And until we can sort them out effectively, we need to seriously curtail on the influx of this religion until we can get a better handle on whether it can ever be assimilated into American society.
Yeah,
it's all about Western culture.
No, it's a very important point. And by the way, I mean, so much of what we are hearing, too, tracing back to Mandani, is very anti-Semitic. I mean, he was invited to go to the National Holocaust Museum. He hasn't even written them back. They said, we'd like to give you a tour to really explain what genocide is. And he hasn't even shown the decency to go back to them. So it's like, no, I'm not going to go to the Israel parade. I'm going to bash Netanyahu. I'm not going to even give you the respect of answering. You sort of agree with me or else. And then we find out he's hanging out with groups that apparently are groups that, according to reports, are coddling the Muslim Brotherhood. So, I mean, that's a problem. Hey, Robert, hold on 1 second. I want to play this for you because this is some sound we just got in. This is Adam Holloway. This is the guy, of course, in New Jersey. Sorry, not too far from you in Philly. And this is what he had to say. Of course, you got to wonder about this guy. This is the guy, remember, who was close to the blind sheikh, who was sort of the mastermind, if you will, of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. What a nice guy. And here is Adam Holloway with some of his views, Robert.
Which dovetails into other things, ICE. When you reach Congress, will you vote to stop funding ICE?
I will vote to abolish it.
Abolish.
I mean, there's things that you could fix, and then there's things that you just have to start over again. And ICE is one of those things that we just have to start over again. It's gotten to the point where clearly they are not functioning. They're in helping us. They are not protecting our communities. They're not protecting our borders.
And then here's a little bit more. He was asked about why he testified for the blind sheikh, who apparently kept talking about jihad the whole drive across country. And then he said, I voluntarily testified. Listen to him explaining this one, Robert.
So you famously testified when you were in your 20s at the trial of Sheikh Mohammed.
Sheikh Omar.
Sheikh Omar. So you famously testified the trial for Sheikh Omar, and didn't he go to jail for he's behind the 93 World Trade Center bombing and among other things?
He went to jail for seditious conspiracy.
Yeah.
And, at the time, and this was a long time ago, this was early 90s, there weren't many Muslim leaders around New Jersey and New York area. And this was someone who was everywhere. He was throughout New Jersey in different mosques, different locations. And so I met him like so many other people in the community because he was around everywhere. And when I was asked to testify, I was already in the military beforehand, military, during the time, military afterwards. I was asked to testify because I had nothing to do with this. I was a good witness because here's a witness that's a medical student that is going to tell everyone what exactly happened. I felt it was a civic duty as someone who believes in the Constitution.
Robert, what a bunch of hogwash. I thought it was my civic duty to testify for a terrorist. Are you kidding me?
It's that wonderful blend of socialism and Islamism, Rita, and each side is using the other for their convenience, and I'm confident, since we're not Europe, that it will blow up in both of their faces. These morons are going to lead to the decimation of the Democratic Party, and I can cheer about that, but all I can do is hope that the Democratic Party finds itself and returns to sanity so we can get back to having a decent country. And I'll leave it there. Rita, I always appreciate the time. Wonderful show. And you have a great night.
You are great, Robert. Thank you so much. And the reality is, too, guys, that Homeaway is in New Jersey, and it's it's a blue district. Obviously, primarily New York City is a blue district. We've had, of course, Republican mayors, but you look at all of these factors, and that means that Homeaway is going essentially to Washington, all but guaranteed. So is also Chevalier in New York, the woman who washed her hands with the American flag and mocked it. And the same sort of, disrespect that the DSA continues to promote. And then the sort of Islamist strain, if you will, with Homeaway and El Sayed and these others. It's a dangerous cauldron. It is a dangerous, dangerous cauldron. Let's go to Sal in New Jersey on line 2. Go ahead, Sal. Your thoughts tonight.
Hello, Rita. Rita, when Mamdani makes lists of people that he says should be taxed and should be thrown out of the country and this and that, what he's doing is he's demonizing people, and those are code words because eventually he's going to go after people that he doesn't disagree with, that don't belong to his religion, that are against his political opinions. He's against all of us. And I would also like to say, Rita, is that Stalin and Mao and Castro did the same thing in their respective countries. They went against their so-called enemies, people that didn't agree with them, people that were against their wicked agenda. It's the same thing.
I agree. And the sad thing is, Sal, that there are people that are sort of, it's the same sort of this democratic socialist strain. And I like how you're sort of combining the sort of red and green philosophies of, these different groups. It's sort of the combination of red and green, both of them sort of, fighting against American values in many, many ways. And I want to play this, Sal. This is Bernie Sanders. It was interesting over the weekend. This is cut 35. And this is Bernie. He came out over the weekend and he was sort of asked about this, Rahm Emanuel, who, of course, worked for Clinton. He was very close chief of staff for Clinton, Bill Clinton, more of a moderate Democrat and establishment Democrat, if you will, because you could tell that there, as Robert was just so eloquently talking about, there's a civil war clearly within the Democratic Party right now. and you've got sort of these DSA folks, and then you've got a few people who are speaking out against them, like Fetterman, for example, who got called an ogre on a pike by El Sayed. That's a doozy. Again, my way or the highway, El Sayed. And then you have, Rahm Emanuel's, you got James Carville every sort of now and then, but I can count them on one hand. And if you dare speak out, you get the wrath of Mandani, you get the wrath of AOC, and you get the wrath of Bernie Sanders, who's sort of the father of socialism in America and the Democratic Socialist Party. They love him. So here is Bernie Sanders on CBS, and he was going after Rahm Emanuel for criticizing the Democratic Socialists. Again, it's the my way or the highway. Take a listen, Sal.
There is, as you know, though, concern within Democratic circles that these inter-party primary fights are draining resources and sort of, pulling away from what should be a unified message. Rahm Emanuel wrote in the Wall Street Journal, the Bernie bros could spoil Democrats' midterms. He said the DSA and others are saddling the party with nominees who, as he put it, wildly unpopular positions will protect Republicans from having to pay the price of Donald Trump's corruption. He said it was the socialists who led the charge to defund the police, open borders, abolish prisons. He's saying those are losing messages that are going to hurt the party overall. How do you respond?
That is what Rahm Emanuel is saying, who no doubt has the support of millions of working class people. Look, this is an argument. There's no debate. There is a strong division within the Democratic Party. You have an establishment like Rahm Emanuel, who are dependent on billionaire campaign contributors who want to maintain the status quo. Then you have a progressive movement, which, by the way, what is getting these guys nervous is we are winning all over this country. It's not only Mamdani in New York City, it's in New Jersey, it's in Ohio, it's in Colorado. People are sick and tired of the Rahm Emanuels and the Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment. They are asking simple questions, Margaret. Why in God's name are we the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right? Pretty simple question. Canada does it. Europe does it. Somehow we can't do it. Why do we have an economy in which one man, Mr. Musk, owns more wealth than the bottom half of American society?
Yeah.
Why do the economists tell us that in the richest country in the history of the world, our kids will likely have a lower standard of living than their parents? The American people are tired of a rigged economy, a corrupt campaign, finance system. They want real change. They don't want Rahm Emanuel and the establishment maintaining the status quo.
So I guess they want, Sal, reparations, right? I guess they want government-run grocery stores. I guess they want to abolish ICE and prisons. And I guess they want anti-Semitism. And
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And coming up on the Rita Cosby Show, wait till you hear the replacement for Graham Plattner. And guess what? He's singing Platitudes of Plattner. That's a problem right away. That and a whole bunch more. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Larry in Brooklyn. Line 1. Go ahead, Larry. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. I want to refer to what Alan Dershowitz said about Mamdani being a lawyer's dream. I believe that these grocery stores are unconstitutional. But we need creative lawyers to bring case. Not every case is cut and dried. I believe that John Castanetides could be a plaintiff in a lawsuit because these grocery stores are unconstitutionally taking money from certain people like him. Now, let me give you an example of why I believe that's so. Because, okay, if you have a system of capitalism, then let's say you take food stamps. Food stamps are allotted to the lowest tier of the population economically. But these grocery stores are open to all tiers of the population. So therefore, in a capitalist system, this is not really a direct subsidy to people that are below the poverty line. This is a direct subsidy to all people. And as Fernando Mateo said, this is not policy. Okay, so if it's not policy, what is it? It's an unconstitutional taking of property in contravention to the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, incorporated to the states under the 14th Amendment. So I believe that they're unconstitutional, but we got to get lawyers activated because the left has lawyers, but the right doesn't.
No, you know what, Larry? I hear what you're saying. You're actually bringing up a very good point. And there is this sort of issue. There's a group of immigrant-led business group folks, and they're saying it's unfair competition, that the prices being 30% lower on like food and bread and butter and things like that, that's unfair. But you're right. Lawyers got to look at the lines.